October 6th. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. And welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat interview edition. Tonight, we are going to be interviewing Rachel Jamison. She is a friend of ours, long time.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's going on probably 10 years, isn't it?
No, I think it's longer than that.
Longer than that, huh?
I think so.
How old is Carmen?
22 and a half.
22. And I think she started working for us when she was like 15 or maybe 14.
13 or 14.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
All right.
Carmen's my daughter, by the way, for people to know.
What's that?
I said Carmen's my daughter, so people know who we're talking about.
And Carmen worked for us butchering chickens and opening bread and painting and a bunch of other little things around here. Real nice kid. All right. So tonight's show is brought to you by the Anyone Can Farm Homestead Hog Harvest. Our first one is going to be November, I think 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's the first weekend in November. Rachel's actually been to that, and she's won several awards, for stepping forward and, being a good volunteer.
Yeah, there's a picture
tonight. Yeah. So let me go through and tell you, I've got a nice bio here, and a lot of times I'll just turn it over to the interviewee and say, tell us who you are. But I think this is really good. This is worth reading. I think this came out really good. Rachel Jamison. As a child, my family moved frequently, so I never had a garden or animals. Our food came from the store, and it was usually the cheapest we could find. 70s and 80s economic crisis hit my parents hard. It was my grandfather, trips out west camping, secret places hidden within the confines of our small city, and short stints to country relatives that sparked something inside me that I could never shake. That's the part that I like right there. I think people will relate to that. My grandfather was instrumental in my development too. He had a plot right in Hyde Park, Boston, that he had a really nice little menagerie going. Really motivated me. If I asked my family, they all knew that small city girl was destined to become a country girl. I developed a voracious reading habit in elementary school. It was then I discovered Laura Ingalls Wilder, Gwen Frostic, James Audubon, and more. I'm not familiar with him.
James Audubon? You're kidding me. Okay.
Is he the Audubon Society?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was spelled that way. I thought it was Audubon. All right. Anyway. I met my husband in high school. We grew up on a small hobby farm doing 4-H, raising animals, gardening, picking fruit, and cutting wood. He lived the life I always dreamed of. After I got married, we lived in a small old trailer outside of town for a few years. Eventually, we saved and purchased 20 acres. It took us 2.5 years to build a cute little house. Yes, we did it mostly ourselves, which we then sold. We kind of regret that. It was there that I grew my first tomatoes from some free starts my mother-in-law gave me. We then moved back to town. We were on an acre, and it was my gardening and homesteading journey. It was then my homesteading journey really started. My mother-in-law taught me to can, and my father-in-law taught me about conventional gardening. I started learning to bake and cook from scratch, and then a series of health issues and tragedies hit our family. These changed the way we thought about food and farming. During this time, we fixed up the house, sold it, and moved to where we currently are on 0.33 of an acre. I dove headfirst into alternative food, health, medicine, herbals, gardening, butchering, more preserving, primitive skills, etc. The more I learn about this deep subject, the less skilled I feel. Now, why wouldn't I read that? That was really nice.
That's the bio from my website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when I read that, I thought, if I were the listeners, the part of that I want to know about is, could you expound on the health problems that you had and how
Yeah.
you solved those problems on your own? And then, I want to from there move into where you are and what you're doing, because I think a lot of people are going to find it a little difficult to believe you could actually raise your own food on a third of an acre. I mean, that doesn't seem like enough room. But if we could take it in that order, please, I would like that.
Sure. So my health actually started, my issues started when I was born. I was born prematurely, and I got very sick right after I was born. I had pneumonia and stayed in the hospital for a little while. And when I was 4, I was diagnosed with failure to thrive and was taken to U of M. And most parents understand that when your kids are 5 years old, you think almost all moms know what their kids weighed at 5 years old. I don't know why, but I know what my kids weighed. And at 5 years old, I weighed 26 pounds. I was in kindergarten. I weighed 26 pounds, and I was in a size 3T. So I was very small. So I was really sick, and I went into school. I missed probably a month to 2 months out of school every year, all 12 years of school. Just for mysterious illness. They never put their finger on it. I was always sick. I always looked sickly. When I got into high school, well, probably junior high, girls go through this phase where they're worried about being fat. So unbeknownst to me, I stopped eating things like bread and stuff like that, which for me, I started to feel better, but I didn't really know why. And so I was able to be an athlete at that time, but I still struggled a lot. All through high school, I took pain medication on a daily basis. I was an athlete. I was a gymnast all through high school and competitive athlete, and competed all over the state. But I was not thriving at all. I was pretty sick still. I think my junior year, I was dating my husband, Todd. I think I missed 2 months of school. And in fact, going back to 6th grade, I missed so much school that year. I almost flunked. And I missed my favorite. I got walking pneumonia that year, and I missed so much school that pneumonia was normal for me, but I missed so much school that I was really disappointed that I had to skip. It was so bad that I couldn't do gym class and I couldn't do recess.
Oh, wow.
And it's probably the only reason that I passed 6th grade, because I missed so much schools, because I spent that time doing schoolwork, which for me was really boring because I was never a great student. I was always more interested in recess and in gym class. So both my husband and I were more interested in gym class and recess than we were in academics. But that was actually part of how I developed my voracious reading habit. And, anyways, so going forward, I was sick, and then I got married. My health kind of got a little bit better my junior, senior year, because I had started doing a lot of weightlifting, and I was only eating meat and vegetables because that's kind of what, weightlifters did then. And I didn't realize that that was what was healthy for me. And then I got married. We had our first child, and I was fine. And then when we had our second child, Carmen, who worked for you, my health took a drastic turn. I got to the point when I was 29, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. Actually, before that, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. Then when I was 29, I was diagnosed with celiac disease after I got down to 85 pounds. And I was so sick. My hair was falling out. I couldn't comb my own hair because my hands hurt so bad. I had to stop halfway up the stairs and sit down and rest. And so those were my first 3 diagnoses. And then I was 29. By the time I don't even know when, it just kind of, it just kept going. Doctor's visits, that weekly doctor's visit. I was going to the rheumatologist. I was going to the regular doctor. I was going to the pulmonologist. I was going to the, what's the blood doctor where I don't remember. You get infusions because my iron was so low. I had to have blood and transfusions. And, yeah. And so I felt like death, and I literally thought I was going to die. And my dad had died of cancer when he was 44. I think I was 25 when my dad died. No, 23 when my dad died. So I thought I was just going to die like he did. I was going to die young. And, so the doctors never really helped me. They just kept telling me, well, here's a pill and go to this therapy, and there's really not much we can do. And they diagnosed me with celiac disease, which the gluten-free diet helped me for some time. Like, it helped the stomach aches go away. I did gain weight back. Obviously, I'm not 85 pounds anymore. But I still had this chronic fatigue and pain. I mean, just everything hurt all the time. And I would get weird. I would wake up and my hand would be swollen, or my knee would be swollen, or it was just, and I couldn't think. Like, my brain was gone. Terrible brain fog. And then I added a couple more diagnoses with endometriosis, hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's. They just kept pouring in. And then when I was like, what am I now? I'm 47. I'm 47 now. I think around when I was 40, I found the paleo diet. And I just removed all grains, ate a heavy meat diet, and I started feeling amazing. And that's basically where we stick now. I eat a ton of meat, and that I get most of it from you. And we eat some vegetables, which I grow, and fruit, which I grow. And I mean, I do buy some from the store. I'm not going to say that I'm totally self-sustainable, but farming is literally what saved my life, is food. Because the doctors really had no answers. They gave me pills. They gave me, they really gave me no hope for feeling better, thriving. And now we have this property, which we have 1/3 of an acre, but we also bought 20 acres. I spent all summer putting 10 miles a day on 3 or 4 days a week on my little legs, hauling buckets of water and hay and digging new gardens. And I feel fantastic. So, there's hope in food. I mean, yeah. And you never, when I was 29, you never would have told me. I didn't even think I would be here. Yeah. So, yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. And then my kids started getting sick too. So, I have so little faith in the conventional medical system at this point, after experiencing it myself, after watching family members experience it, my mom's health issues, my dad's health issues, my aunt's health issues, my kids. I have so little faith, and they never address diet, which to me is huge. And this food movement, this farming and homesteading and food movement, I believe is vital, not only to our economy, but to our health.
Okay. All right. So like with a lot of things that we've seen in the last couple of years, especially, I think maybe I've been looking at it longer than that. It's not like they've been hiding it, but the institutions that we should be relying on, we're kind of realizing that we really can't rely on them, and that when they work, but they're not always going to work. And so maybe it's a better idea for us to look for our own solutions first, or maybe at the same time. For one, I'm not willing to just throw all the entire Western medicine out at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to do that. Yeah. But I kind of go into it knowing that they've got certain procedures that are in their toolbox. That's what they're going to use first. So if you don't want that and you think there's a better way, then maybe that is something you should look at. So that's what you wound up doing, but that was after they pretty much failed you.
I mean,
right?
I probably wouldn't be here, or at least doing as well as I am. I mean, I had some blood transfusions. Obviously, that I need that medical system. If I have a stop sign sticking out of me, yes, I want medical. If I need antibiotics, I will take them. I'm not saying I don't do any of that. I like the marriage of integrative medicine, but it's really hard to find. But when it comes to chronic illness and autoimmune disease, modern medical has kind of failed those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chronic autoimmune diseases, they don't give you a lot of hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we could probably agree that we weren't designed to fail. We were designed to thrive. And if there is a failure going on there, then there needs to be a fix. And I think you found your fix in the natural world. I have too. So I'm 100% with you. And this is my kind of conversation right here for sure. Can you tell us about the property that you're on now?
Yeah.
How about that?
We have a third of an acre in northern Michigan. So we're like an hour and a half north of you. I think we're like at the 44th parallel here. So I'm grow zone 5 because we have a small lake. We kind of have a little bit of a microclimate a little bit here. I have 2 mulberry trees, 3 apple trees, raspberries, goji berries. Let me see, what else do I have? I always forget. I have 2 fig trees, Chicago figs, which are not producing yet. And then we have most of the backyard is garden. And then we have vegetables planted among all of our ornamentals. Believe it or not, my husband is actually the one. I mean, if you're in the Facebook page, you've seen some of my pictures, but if you see all the beautiful flowers and stuff, that's my husband. He plants all the flowers. Yep. He plants all the flowers. I do the vegetables. But so that's what we have here. I do grow in the winter too, in the basement sometimes. We eat, like I said, we eat a lot of meat. We eat a lot of fat. We eat a lot of broth. I'm the weirdo that Jill tosses all of the offal to. I think the last time I came, she gave me spleen even. So I think it was the cow spleen from one of the cows that you guys butchered. So, yeah, so I process all that here. I get fat from you guys and I process the fat and that's what we use. But that's what our property is. We do have some grass still. If we were going to stay here, I would probably get rid of the grass. But we have grass here. We have had chickens in the past, but because we have the 20 acres that we spend 3 to 4 days a week out at, it just doesn't make it work for us to have the chickens here anymore. And so I have that. We grew this year. So what I do on my property, because it's so small, is I usually will rotate what I grow a large amount of. Last year, I grew a ton of tomatoes and green beans.
Okay.
And then I canned that. And so this year I didn't grow. Actually, my green beans went crazy. So I did grow a lot of green beans again this year, but I only grew 4 tomato plants just for eating, but not for canning. And I did end up making some ketchup and stuff like that to can. But so this year my focus was potatoes because potatoes were a calorie crop. I was kind of focusing on that with everything going on. I decided to focus on potatoes. And I think it was like on 105 square feet. No, I think it was 125 square feet. We grew about 100 pounds of potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you guys have had Craig come and teach at your place.
Yep.
Craig has been a huge mentor of mine. And I believe he's the reason my soil produces so well is because he's given me advice through the years and I have I plant very intensively like he does, and I have supercharged my soil over the years, and I just feed it and feed it. So that's why it can keep putting out, even though I plant things crazy close, and everything is vertical. I have my beans climb, my cucumbers, everything that is a vine, I grow up onto trellises that my husband made. He made them out of metal conduit, like for it's for wiring, but he can bend conduit, so he made them out of metal conduit, and we put that over rebar, and we hold up cucumbers and melons and everything on those. Yep.
Well, this brings up kind of an interesting subject. We did a little research recently, and come to find out, somewhere between 80 and 90% of American citizens live on a quarter acre or less. A quarter acre or less. So that's a very interesting demographic, because when we start talking about homesteading and food production as a way of, regaining health and regaining foundational stability in the country, a lot of people, the first thing that they will say is, well, I don't really have enough land to homestead on. So could you address that? Sounds like you already have, but attitude.
Yeah, I mean it. I know that's one of the things that we talk about on the podcast that I have, because my co-host I can't remember. I think he actually has less land than I do, but then he bought the lot next to him. But you can grow so many ways, even if you're in an apartment. I grew last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year I grew in grow bags in my basement under lights. I grew bok choy, lettuce, and I'm trying to think. I grew several lettuces and several bok choy over the winter in my basement that we ate. I've grown in buckets. I've grown tomatoes in buckets. Right now I have asparagus that I started from seed. I have that growing in a grow bag. So you can utilize a lot of space. I mean, it is crazy what some of these urban homesteaders, they're all over YouTube. I've seen people have milk go on 1/10 of an acre in the city. So yeah. There's buckets, there's grow bags, you can grow inside under grow lights. There's just a lot of options. I prefer to grow in soil, but I know a lot of people do grow other ways. There's a method called kratky where people grow in jars. I don't really know much about it because I prefer to grow in soil, but people grow with wicking systems where they have these big tubs and they have ebb and flow systems. There's so many different things that people use, but I'm not well versed in those because I'm kind of a fan of soil. I believe that soil is life. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But
so we're getting ready to start a project, and it's because that demographic of all those people that live on a quarter acre or less. So we're gonna next door, we're gonna part off a quarter of an acre, and the building that's there will represent the house. And
nice.
We're gonna actually fence it off. And I wanna go for it. I want to just see how much we can put on there. And the goal is to create a quarter acre sustainable homestead on a quarter acre.
That sounds really cool. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could get some consulting help from you.
Well, we made so many mistakes here that I see now. One of them is where our chicken coop is. I wouldn't put it there again. Where our garden is, I probably wouldn't. Just how it is. You do stuff and you're like, why did I do it that way? But we've lived here 12 years. I think 12 years, and this is where we really intensively started. Our other property, we had an acre there, which I would kill for that now. Although I have 20 acres now, so now I'm planting stuff out there. But I think, especially if you're going to do it over there in the field, I think my biggest, at least in my opinion, and I think Craig would say this too, is you're not farming vegetables, you're farming your soil. You gotta, that soil is life. And if it's not feeding, if you don't feed the soil, you're not feeding yourself. So you're going to be missing, even though you might produce a tomato, it's not going to be the world's, when you're trying to feed yourself sustainably off of your land, it's really important that that soil is doing is at its optimal. So maybe I want to get his consultation too on adding those minerals. Because that's one thing I do too, is I send in my soil because I intensively grow on it and I beat it up and none of it gets rested. I send my soil sample in every year.
Okay.
Because
I'm open to anybody that would like to help on this project, but all of the
things. The other thing I do, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, he's harped on that you are not farming cattle on your property, Mark. You're farming microbes in the soil.
Yeah.
So if I had a quarter of an acre and let's say it was on the edge of town or maybe even in town, let's just say, I know you'd probably raise some eyebrows if you had a pen of pigs in town, but part of what we're going to do on this is we're going to explore it constitutionally. Like the township might say no roosters, but can they really enforce that? And I believe the answer is no, because it's not prohibited by law. So go away. But if we're going to be farming the microbes in the soil, we have to have a source of manure.
Yeah.
So, you might think, well, the first animal to put in would probably be chickens, but they don't really give that much manure.
Well, and it's so hot.
Steers do. So if on a quarter acre, I could part off enough space for a couple steers and a round bale, and then we can collect their manure. So the manure would go into the compost pile. All the refuse from the garden would go in the compost pile. It would get turned. That would be the amendments that we use in the garden and the fruit trees and the nut trees, and complete with a little area to butcher cattle and pigs and all that stuff. I can't wait to do it. I think it's going to be fun as anything.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited. One of the things that I do too is I succession plant.
Yeah.
So like the second something comes out, I put something back in, which is what a lot of market gardeners do. But when you're growing it, I think my garden is 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have the fruit trees a succession plant. So the second something comes out, you replant. And I also plant things way closer than what's suggested on the back of the package. So
yeah.
So
yeah.
I think rabbits too, for people that don't want a cow to deal with, rabbits too were one thing that we have considered, because their poop can go right into the garden. You don't have to compost it. It just can go right into the garden. So we've considered rabbits just for their poop, even if we didn't eat them, just the poop alone is, to me, beneficial enough to. Well, that's the other thing we do have. So this year, I planted here, because we don't know the time frame of when we're going to get to our acreage that we bought. I planted fodder trees here, which can feed rabbits. So tree hay.
Yeah,
and that's something I'm exploring. I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to learn and read about it. And then, in fact, that'll be a big project this winter, because I've been really busy. But supposedly rabbits can eat a lot of tree hay or tree fodder. So I have mulberry, And I planted more mulberry, which I intend to actually coppice and keep small. Not the mulberry that I have here for fruit. The mulberry I have here right now is for actual fruit for us. But I planted white mulberry, which is a hybrid, and I planted popple. I did not plant willow here at our property, which is apparently a very good fodder tree. I planted that out at our property. I don't want to deal with willow at our property with our septic system. The roots and stuff are just like a bad idea. But so we just have those two, and my plans were to cut and coppice those for feed for my animals, for rabbits, and then also for ramial wood chips, which Craig talks about, for wood chipping into the garden to feed the soil.
That was really interesting when he talked about that.
Yeah. I've read a few articles that he posted. So the tips of your deciduous trees, so not your pine needles and stuff like that, like leafed trees. The tips of your leafed trees, I forget what it is. I think it's like up to 2 inches. I might be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but up to 2 inches have the most minerals in them of any part of the tree. And they have the most growth hormone and all of those kind of things. Yeah. And they've done lots and lots of studies on this. And apparently those are just amazing for your garden, for the bacteria, for feeding your soil. And so Craig puts these all over your soil. And I know some of you don't know who Craig is, but the guy is brilliant and his gardens are beautiful, and he grows like some of the most mineral and vitamin dense food probably in Michigan, if not more. If not more. I mean, the guy is a soil genius. And so he does this. He started coppicing trees and using it. And so I'm like, well, I could do this on a small scale. So yeah, I mean, so that's what I planted those trees. I think I planted 7. We're going to grow them just into it. We're not going to allow them to get past like 4 feet tall. We'll just keep cutting them and cutting them and cutting them, and they'll turn into a hedge, which is fine because we have neighbors. We literally are in a fishbowl. You look I can see my neighbor's alarm clock. And which I like my neighbor, but not that much.
When you say coppicing, can you explain to the viewing audience what you mean by that?
I could be getting the terms mixed up, but there's coppicing and pollarding. I believe the coppicing is when you cut it at the ground. I mean, I think everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of homesteaders, you've cut a tree at the ground and then you get those branches that grow up. They just keep coming back and keep coming back. Yep. They'll just keep coming back and keep coming back. And over in Europe, they've done this for generations. And that's how they do a lot of their wood that way. They use it to make all sorts of things. They use it for burning. Pollarding, I believe, is they actually let the tree get taller and they cut it higher up. But I could be mixing those two terms up.
No,
but
I think you have it right.
Yeah. So our plans were either coppice or pollard. I'm not sure which we would do. Now out at our property, we're going to probably pollard because we want to use those as a fence row. We'll pollard those and run animals down between those. And Craig and I have actually been talking about that, and he's working on that as well at his property. So, but those you can use them for animal feed and for your garden. So they're like a multi-purpose. It's a multi-purpose use for the trees. And you can do that if you don't let them get huge, you can do that, of course, on the small scale.
Yeah. When he was here and he was mentioning that, I said, well, what happens if you clip those small ends off and you feed them to the animals? And he says, I don't know. Now, there's growth hormones in it for sure. And I know when I trim trees around here, I always throw it in with the pigs because they just devour it.
Yeah. And I think it depends on which, I mean, I know certain species can eat certain trees and can't eat other trees. I don't know the logistics of that. I know rabbits can eat quite a bit. I mean, they're rabbits, but I think like goats are you have to be careful with them, and probably horses. But I mean, I know that all of them can eat some trees. I just don't know how. I know, and some of them can eat way more. And I think rabbits obviously can eat way more than, say, a horse or a cow. But there's people, I know people, I follow a YouTube channel in, in Scotland, and they're feeding them to cows. Tree hay.
Yeah, tree hay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I tell my audience that we covet the wood chips from the guys that trim the trees, and they have those big truckloads of wood chips
Right.
that they want to find a place to dump them. And I had a mountain of them here one year, and they were green. Boy, it made the whole farm smell really nice. And we would take them by the bucket load and drop it in with the pigs. Excuse me. And they would go through it, and they ate a lot of it.
That's amazing.
It just,
yeah. And I mean, and if you can keep cutting the same tree over and over again, I know in Europe they have trees that are like hundreds of years old, and they keep cutting them and keep cutting them.
Yeah.
And the tree just keeps coming back. Now, specific varieties obviously do better with that than some trees, but yeah. Yeah.
Does Andrew know about that? Is he an expert on that?
Yeah, he's actually been learning this along with us. Him and Craig have started talking. So I think it would be fantastic to have him and Craig talk about this. Yeah. Because Andrew's the tree guy.
He is the tree guy.
He's the tree guy. Yeah.
The other day, Jill was at a local nursery, and they had trees for like 30% off. Nice potted trees. And she got me 5 of them. And then when I was down there picking them up, I said, "What about those 5?" And she said, "Well, you can have those." And she let me have them even cheaper. And these were nice. I mean, they were about this big at the base, apple trees. And I got them home, and I thought, wow, these are beautiful. But I have killed so many trees. And I did a little bit of research. I even called Andrew, but I didn't get him. But I started researching actively, like, I don't want these trees to die. And for 18 years that we've been here, every tree that I've planted, I have planted incorrectly. And the ones that have survived, they shouldn't have. I did it completely incorrect. But I think
so. The way that Craig and Andrew taught me was, when you get a tree, you take all of the dirt off of it and you spread the roots out, and you actually put, let me see, not the roots, but the tree part on a triangle, and you let the roots that are in there go down the sides of that triangle, and you plant that within a square. And then I put mycorrhizae, I can never say it right, fungi.
Fungi.
Yeah, I put that in there with that.
Where do you get that? Where's
and
that?
Then I bought that on Amazon.
Okay.
And I also got some of this information from Nicholas Ferguson, who is huge. That guy I would say that Nicholas is probably, at least that I know of, the leading guy in the country for tree hay right now.
Oh wow!
Like,
I'm gonna write
he's
that down.
producing tons and tons. He's the one that I got all my trees from.
Oh.
I ordered all my trees from him, and I could send you a few. I think I did send you a couple videos of him doing some presentations on tree hay. He feeds them to his animals. Here.
You may have sent them to me, but if it's something that I'm not interested, like right at the time, then it's like, I don't have time for this.
Right.
And it's with all the other stuff that gets sent to me, and I'm only looking at
I know
it.
You're one of those public personalities that everybody sends links to, so you probably get lots.
I get so much stuff. I get so much stuff.
So I'll have to send it to you again and make sure that you know that this is. But anyways, so I got those from Nick, and so he also talked about how to plant them. And so I planted this year. I'm pretty proud of myself for doing this because I dug almost all of them myself. Todd helped me with a few, but I planted 35. I think it was 35 or 40 trees all by myself this year, like that, and I only lost one tree. And that was this summer with a drought, and I hand watered every single one of those all summer long. And I only lost one, even in this. We had a horrible drought here this year. We went like 7 weeks without rain, which is unheard of where we live. I know some of you might live where that's not a big deal, but here that's a big deal. Yeah, I only lost one. So the advice I got from those 3 people really, really helped.
You know, now that we're having this conversation, there's new people on this, and I want to share something that I figured out. And it's sort of like a lot of other things that we see. Things are not always as they seem. So I looked into commercial planting of fruit trees. Guys that are doing commercial planting, they'll always plant in the fall, and they'll always plant bare-rooted trees.
Yes.
Always.
It's hard to get them to ship you trees in the fall, though. That's been my experience.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, if you're ordering them online.
Okay. So for us, like I don't know, we're not the commercial guys. Like my parents weren't orcharders, so they didn't pass it on down to me. So when it's springtime and I go to a nursery, I see this nice tree with leaves on it and buds, and it's in this nice pot, and it's $100, and it's even got a nice picture of the apples that I'm going to get 3 years from now or 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And so I shell out the $100, and you bring it home, and you go by what they say on the plant, the instructions, and then in 3-4 years it struggles and then dies. And I find out that it's because that's not how it's done, but it's sort of a marketing thing for people. When you go to a nursery, you see this, and it kind of makes sense. So you see chrysanthemums there, so you buy them, take them home and plant them. You buy some trees, plant them at home so they can die. So what you want to do is wait until this time of year where the nursery still has a bunch of them, but now they've brought them way down in price, way down in price. And then you take them home, you shake it out, so it's actually a bare-rooted tree. And I don't know if those guys talk to you about the soil mix. You want to interface the roots with the soil that is existing. You don't want to put a whole bunch of real nice fluffy stuff down in that hole, because then the roots will just stay in that hole and they won't venture out and put down a solid foundation. And I've always thought, well, they've been dying on me, so I'll put more compost in the hole, and it's just not really worked.
Well, now that you say that, I'm actually surprised that the 2 dwarf trees that we planted here lived, because I did just that. I'm surprised they're living, but they're like 8 years old now, or 7 years old now. But I did that. I just planted them in the ground. I'm surprised they're alive. I don't know how they stay alive. But they do. I have been struggling with disease, which is where Andrew's been helping me too. Probably because I didn't plant them right. Part of it. Yeah.
I made another huge mistake, and it was I planted my trees sort of like I plant tomatoes, and that I would plant them. I figured if it's better if I plant them deep than if I plant them shallow, which in reality, where the trunk comes down and it belts out slightly, that's called the cup. And that is supposed to be in open air.
Yeah,
so
they want their
in
shoulders
reality,
out.
my hole only wound up being about 8 inches deep. And then I got in there and I broke everything up under it. So I did the same as you. I made sort of a pedestal to where the trees, the
whatever. I don't know.
On the pedestal, and then the roots flowed down from there. Actually, I drew it right there.
You did. You did a nice job.
Thank you.
That's a nice drawing.
Yeah. So I think I've got it now, and I'm going to be a lot more
Yeah, well, we'll
psyched
see what
about
happens.
buying
I mean,
seeds.
I could still lose trees next year. I hope not, but I got them from a good nursery, so
Mm.
they what do you call it? Guarantee
Guarantee
them.
'em?
So we'll see
Do
what
they
happens.
guarantee it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, the one I bought them from Stark, which is a pretty reputable nursery.
Oh, okay.
I bought several from Stark, and then of course I brought all my hay trees from Nick. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So I've got some questions here. We're getting close to the
Sure.
end of the interview. I really appreciate you sitting in on this interview because I think that, well, the reason why we're going after or we're doing the quarter acre homestead is because there are so many people that live on
There
a
are.
quarter acre, right?
Yeah.
So uh, certain people among us are concerned about the state of affairs in the country, and you got the government saying there's going to be food shortages, and so we feel like, well, people just need to maybe start breaking the ground and growing some stuff, and if we can show people all that you can produce on a quarter acre, and
Yeah.
let's say we get 20% of the people that hear this go and do it, that's a lot of food that can be produced. And I think that people are ready for that. Where in the past they were like, "Oh no, I want to go bowling on Tuesday nights." They're like, "Oh, maybe I'll grow food. I think that will make me feel a little bit more secure
Yeah.
these days." So this is going to be neat, especially if we have consulting help from you on it.
Well, I can try. I'm not perfect, that's for sure. But yeah.
All right. Okay, some of these we've already kind of covered. The first one is, what are you doing on your homestead? I think you covered that pretty well. The next one is, what are your future plans? So, what are you planning for the 20 acres?
I am planning. We are planning a silvopasture. So we're planning on having those hay trees be part of our rotation of the grazing of the animals. So hopefully they can eat as they're going down rows. I don't know how to explain it. Like I have it in my head, and I trying to
Yeah.
explain it even to my husband. But we want to do a lot of rotational grazing in there, but we don't have a traditional piece of property for a farm because none of it's flat. It's can be kind of hilly, but we think that if we put in some rows, they can go up and down those hills pretty easily and eat off of the fodder trees. I'm planting some nut trees actually this weekend. I have some chestnuts that I'm planting. And we already have a large portion of it's already forested. We have oak trees there. So we actually have a perfect pig property. And that's our hope, is to grow some pigs and chickens and turkeys and stuff. But that's the hope there, is get the food. Right now what we're doing is putting in place the trees, because those would take the longest. And we're not sure when we're going to be able to move there. We have no idea. So I'm planting trees, and we're moving soil around. And when we bought it, it was so full of crappy pine trees that they had chopped down when they were doing some logging, and they had just left them. You literally had to physically climb over them. I mean, some of them were like 4 and 5 feet tall in all of the lanes, which are quite a few. And so it's taken us 2 years just to clear all those lanes out and plant them. So we've been planting them. This year we used buckwheat, rye, daikon, and wheat this year. And we planted that in all of the lanes because we have a mixture of sand and clay to improve the soil.
Yep.
And so that's where we're hoping to run some chicken tractors down, and probably use some, what do you call that? The movable fencing, the movable electronet fencing. We'll probably use Yeah, that's what we'll probably use. So
Hmm.
that's our plan. We already have the orchard in. I might expand that. I'm not sure. But I'll probably plant some black locust, which I know is a controversial tree. People don't like it because it can spread, but our hopes are just to keep, again, cutting it and using it as fencing. Fencing's crazy expensive. So we're trying to think, what can we do on this property to make it so we're not spending money. We're not going to the feed store. I mean, we're probably still going to have to, but as little as possible.
Yeah.
I'm probably still going to have to buy some chicken feed. But I've been starting to grow sorghum and corn, which I've experimented with here. There, I'm going to make it a bigger plot. And those will be for animals. So that's what,
you know, you have this picture in your mind of the food forest.
Yeah.
And you picture Adam and Eve walking through there and taking bananas and all this. But the food forest could be for your animals too. Like I grow a lot for my animals.
So for us, this is kind of controversial because I know some people don't think it's healthy, but since you were carnivore for a while, for us, when we get to the property, we'll probably eat even more meat than we do now. We're only inhibited by eating more because of where we live. And so my plan is all this food is mostly for the animals, and then we'll just eat the animals.
Yeah.
To us, I mean, we love it. That's the lifestyle we want. You know, I don't buy fat anywhere else. Now we use all tallow and all lard. I don't buy canola oil, corn oil. I stopped buying olive oil. Everything I cook, that's what we use is animal fats and bone broth. Yeah, to me, it's the most versatile thing. In fact, I make toothpaste with tallow. So, yeah, I mean, that's just how we live our lives. So for us to have those animals to provide all of that, it's almost like a closed loop system.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think beef is the way to go because, you know, you're giving them 30 pounds of dry matter per day, and hay is really cheap. You can just stockpile hay, but they're giving you 50 pounds of manure a day, plus their milk and their beef. So to me, it's a no-brainer with cows.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, I still don't know if we'll have a cow or not. If we do, it's going to have to be a shorter, stockier breed, I believe. I'm going to have you out so you can tell me. But with the hills and stuff
you should.
With the hills and stuff that we have, I think a shorter, stockier breed. We're also out there. We're a whole zone colder. We're zone 4 out there.
Yeah.
And they get dumped on by snow. Just dumped on out there. We're in a snow belt out there.
Is there a lot of grass now?
No, it's probably 75% wooded. And we have 2 ponds on the property. But they do go away. Like this last year in the drought, one of our ponds completely dried up, which was scary because that's what I was watering from. That's what I was getting my buckets of water from. And the other one we can't get the tractor back to. So because it's just too marshy back in there. Okay. So where was I at with that? Yeah, so we're like 75 to 80% trees right now. We have one corner of the property, which is the most accessible one by the road, that is a field.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're going to start mowing that next year and see if we can I would love to get some animals on it. I might tell Boone to bring his animals down so they can poop on it. Because Boone is like a couple miles away.
Boone
Sharp. Yeah.
Is he near there?
He's only like 5 miles from our property. Yep.
Okay.
And then Stuart Kunkel.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? He's like 5 miles the other way. So yeah, if they want to come bring their animals over and poop all over, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. You know, there was a time and this is just a few years ago, where I would go to farms and say, "Have you guys got any manure?" And they'd say, "Yeah," and they would load my truck, and I was just
Isn't it crazy?
taking it. And they thought that I was kind of nutty, but I made long windrows with it, and then I turned it, and I've spread that compost all over the farm, and it's really made a huge difference. So
There's
you
nothing, you
can
can't
find it,
replace it. You just cannot replace poop.
right? Right.
Yeah.
And another thing too, that Allen Savory Institute is quite
Yeah.
a good resource. And well, when Parker was here, he was talking about bale grazing, and I think that's something that I'm going to utilize this year. It's you go out there and you spread a lot of seed, but then you take your cattle out there and you drop a bale for them, and they're plopping on top of the seed that you've spread.
Oh.
And that would work for you too, because you could introduce seed out there into your wooded areas like a trefoil, and that'll actually grow in the shade. And then
Yeah.
it'll encourage the cattle to go back in there and open the soil up and put nutrient
Yeah,
down.
we have quite a mixture of old growth and new growth forest because it was logged off once. And so that's kind of why I want pigs. I need pigs to go in through there and dig it all up and start that process of turning it, some of that underforest into grass. And we have smokes out there. The pigs would love hunting around for those.
Yeah. Huh,
yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. I'm excited. I just don't know how we're going to get there. Right now we're kind of trapped in town. So we're growing where we're planted, and God knows when it will be. And we just have to trust that. Yep. We never thought we would own 20 acres. So now we do. So.
All right. I better whip through these questions. Well, how have things changed since you started? No help from kids anymore, and you're middle age.
That has been huge because, I don't know, child slave labor is amazing, and when you don't have it, you realize how much they did. Like, I complained a lot that they weren't doing anything, and then they weren't here, and then I was like, man, I miss having, just somebody cooking and doing the dishes, and even that helped. But we had one of our kids loved the garden more and that kind of stuff more than the other one, and the other one was okay being inside, so we kind of let them do that. And now it's just my husband and I, and we're homesteading 2 properties and working, and it's exhausting. But I mean, we're loving it, but it's definitely different when you don't have the kids around to help you. And we have to plan. So that's one of the things that we're planning with our 20 acres is we're planning for our aging. So the house that we put up is we're going to build it so that we can grow old in it. I put my orchard in not the best spot on our property for an orchard, but I put it where it was because we could drive to it. And I was thinking, when I'm 70, I want to be able to drive to that orchard and not have to walk. I can drive the truck there, and I can pick apples and put the buckets in the back of the truck. But the other place I was going to put it, I could have never drove a truck back there. So we're thinking about 20 and 30 years from now.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm going off of this property in a casket. And I actually hope they bury me there. I told them, I'm like, sprinkle my ashes there. I'm not leaving. This is it.
Biochar.
Yep.
We'll make biochar out of you. Yeah.
Exactly. That would be a dream come true for me.
All right. And then the last question is, and I think you kind of did answer this, but maybe just in a thumbnail sketch, why do you do this? You could be acting in films in Hollywood, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
It is just, I don't think I can't do it. I think this is what I was born to do. Since I was a child, I've known that Rachel would be in the woods somewhere, on a farm somewhere, homesteading somewhere, if we weren't starting a farm and homestead again, we'd be moving to Alaska or something, because that's always been Todd and I's dream our whole lives, both of us. Just, I don't know. It's like it was put inside of us to do this. And I don't think I can't not do it. I mean, I tried to give up gardening for a year when I was super busy, and I was so depressed to not be outside and messing with the soil and going to friends' farms and helping them butcher. I can't not do it.
I really think that there's a connection between the human and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like we spend a good share of our day completely insulated from the earth, like we're on rubber shoes.
Yeah.
And so I make a conscious effort when I'm milking, let's say, I'll kneel down. I'll put my knee right on the ground, and it's wet, and I know, but I'm connecting to the ground. I don't have a problem with sitting on the ground or putting my hands in the dirt at all. I do it
me either.
whenever I can. And I think it's done well by me. And you know what? I'm not programming my body to only live 90 years. I'm saying I think I want to go 140, 150, because I can still get a lot to do. And I don't want to be restricted to this, this 90-year-old thing and rocking chair at the end. I don't think I want to do that. I'd like to go 150. I really think I would. And I'm not afraid of eternity at all, but this is pretty cool. I'd like to stick with this for a while.
Exactly.
I met you 10 years ago. Come on.
We got stuff to do, Mark. We got stuff to
do. Right on.
We got stuff
so why
together.
Program when you say, well, when I'm 70, I won't be able to ride my bicycle out to the field. What?
Right. Well, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is it's easier to bring the truck, because I did plant 16 fruit trees. That's a lot of, yeah.
That's a lot of digging.
We just designed it so we didn't have to have help. That's what we're trying to design it, so that we're not like telling the kids to come help us, so it's easier to maintain. Plus, time wise, I mean, right now it's chop, chop, chop all the time right now for us.
So this is 8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock. This is way past your bedtime, isn't it?
Yeah, we usually, well, I have to say I did sleep in this morning. I got up at 5:15.
Shame.
I know it. Todd was up at 4:15 and he left the house at 5, and I didn't get up till 5:15 today. So, yeah.
And you're both of you are working outside the home?
Yeah, I own a small cleaning business, but I also joined a podcast. So I have a podcast and a website, and then I have a cleaning business, and then Todd has his job.
Well, for your information, all of that information will be in the description, so people can listen in.
Yeah.
And well, we've gone over an hour effortlessly. I always like spending time with you. It's always fun.
It was. Well, it sounds like we might be doing some farming on a quarter of an acre down at the Baker Homestead.
Yeah.
That sounds like a blast.
Every time it seems like we're where we're going to be, where we can hold right here for a while and let's get some stuff fixed and finish the bathroom and stuff. Something new comes up and it's like, we'll get the bathroom later. Let's do this.
Yeah. I felt like I was just maintaining everything that this is. And then I was contacted by someone that I've known for years, that I've been managing their Facebook group for years. And he's like, hey, I want you to join the podcast. And it was like, yeah. And so now I'm busier than I was, but I'm loving it. So
is that a daily podcast?
No, we do it once a week.
Okay.
Right now, but we're probably going to expand it. But he's had the podcast for 5 or 6 years. Yep.
Can you give us that address?
It's called the Modern Homesteading Podcast, and you can find it wherever podcasts are found. It's And we actually have a YouTube channel too, where you just see our mugs. It's the podcast, but where you can see our faces.
Modern
And
homesteading.
Yeah, the Modern Homesteading Podcast. If you Google it or put it in, you'll find it because, like I said, he's had it for years. But
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
His website is called Redemption Permaculture, and that's where you can find the podcast on his website. And then I'm just reposting it over at my website. But he also has a blog.
Is he a Michigan guy?
No, he's oh my gosh,
Wow.
I want to say he's in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah. But we actually met through Facebook. I joined his group years ago, and I've managed his Facebook group. Our Facebook group has like 27,000 people in it.
No kidding. Holy smokes.
Yeah. It grew a lot over the years, and I joined it a long, long time ago, and I started admitting it for him for a long time. So
neat.
Yeah, we got to know each other that way. He's got his own. He would be a great interview for if you want to get somebody another urban, because he does quail, rabbits, aquaponics. He does all of that on his little homestead in town.
Now, is he a dedicated to that? Is that his main gig? Is creating content?
He was a truck driver. He was a pastor, and then he was a truck driver. Okay. And now I think he works like 3 days a week as a truck driver, and then he does this the rest of the time. But yeah, his gardens are beautiful gardens. Him and John Moody are good friends.
Okay, there's like 2 million content creators in the United States that do nothing but create content, and they're 6 figures.
Yeah, Harold. I don't think Harold's not 6 figures, but he's doing okay. I think he's growing. It was his podcast. He kind of lets go for a little bit, and now he's ramping it back up. So we're ramping it back up.
Yeah,
not
creating content.
We are. Yeah. I'm not Justin Rhodes, that's for sure, or Jack Spirko or anything. We're not that big at all, but
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going on Jack Spirko on the 19th.
Are you really? This month, the 19th?
Yeah.
Do you know when it will air?
18th, 19th. I'm not sure. What's that?
Do you know when it will air?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Joe knows.
That's
he
awesome.
told me the other day. I just don't know. Yeah, and I went on Mike Adams last month, the health ranger.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that do this.
That was a pretty big deal.
I don't know if I want to. Yeah, I don't know what I want. We'll figure it out as I go along. I don't want to be cleaning other people's toilets next 70. I know that.
All right. Well, I guess I'll call it to a close. I want to thank you again.
Thanks really for having me on.
Nice spending time with you. Oh, our pleasure. We will definitely have you on again.
Well, and I've butchered a lot of things with you and stuff like that. Oh. So it's fun to actually talk without blood on our hands and all that kind of stuff. Sure. So
we're doing a homestead beef harvest this year.
I heard that. Yeah. Nice.
That's going to be a big deal.
Might be the only thing I haven't butchered with you.
Yeah. But what's nice about doing a beef is when you have a few people working together, then you don't feel like, oh, look what I've got ahead of me. You've got a couple people helping. It's nice.
That's a big animal. I can't even. We've done a lot of deer, but a beef is like 12 deer.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It is.
Yeah.
There's we could talk a long time, but there's just this nice feeling that I get when, like, I had to move the cows today, and it was moderate hour and a half worth of work setting up a new fence, and it happened to be pouring rain, so I got totally soaked. But I was out there with them, and we had kind of a nice time. And then they were on a new field, and I had to go to Cadillac for something. And I felt pretty good that they had nice new hay and all that stuff to eat, or new grass. And then I had a really nice steak for dinner tonight. So there's just this, we work together.
Full circle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very beneficial. Yeah.
Oh, a good steak sounds good. Now I'm getting hungry and it's bedtime.
Wow. It was a good steak too. Good.
I
I mean, I took it out when it was still kind of pink in the middle, kind of red, actually. It was a little cool in the middle, just like I like it.
Oh, I like mine like that. I know it grosses people out, but I eat raw eggs and very, very, I eat warm meat. I like it raw. I mean, I like it really, really rare. It's yummy.
Yeah. Do you do any of the Wim Hof stuff? I know Andrew is kind of into that.
I do. I don't cut a hole in my ice in the lake and jump in it, but I do do the cold shower, and I need to get back into doing the breathing stuff. And but I do a lot of I kind of combine whatever works for me. I eat a lot of raw eggs. I know people say you're gonna get sick, but I don't. I've been doing it for years, haven't got sick yet. So
I actually
eat a lot of raw eggs.
Buzz from raw eggs. I actually do. When I eat them raw, I just get this feeling that comes over me. I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what, but I've been swimming. Well, we stopped last year when we went down to Texas. We came back and the ice was really thick, and so that was a good reason to say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't swim in the wintertime. But we've started back up, and I'm doing it every day now. I actually don't want to miss a day now, because I miss that buzz that you get when you come out of the cold water.
I need to try it, but that cold. I do try to do a cold shower, and then I do a lot of barefoot walking. I'm barefoot unless I'm digging or something like that. But yeah, in the garden, I'm almost always barefoot.
I see. I can't do the cold shower. That is really uncomfortable.
That's worse than the water. Wow. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just because you're imposing it on yourself. But when I walk out in the morning, it's cold, and I got a half a cup of coffee waiting for me on the kitchen table. So I get in the pool, dunk down, swim around a little bit, get thoroughly cold, and then when you step out of the water, it's warm, and your body just feels kind of tingly a little bit and warm. And then have the rest of that cup of coffee, get dressed, pour another cup of coffee, and then when I go out the door, I'm ready. I am ready, Well,
I have considered putting a tote in the tub and just filling it full of ice water and doing that every day. Just because I don't have a pole or anything. Well, I mean, I would just keep it cold. I mean, I don't have to add ice, even if it was just room temperature. It's colder than a shower.
You could get one of those 150-gallon Rubbermaid totes.
Put it outside.
Tractor Supply, and then put a bird bath heater in it so it wouldn't freeze. That'd be enough. You wouldn't have to filter it or anything.
I thought about doing it. It does. I can tell you, I've had problems with pain issues, like I was saying, my whole life. Like I had a carpal tunnel. They told me I needed surgery. I had plantar fasciitis. They told me I needed surgery. And the ice, I would do ice dips with just my hand, and it's amazing what ice does, like that cold does for inflammation. It's huge.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we
talked
diet a little bit.
Maybe I have to do that.
And I'll tell the audience what happened to me was I went carnivore because I was being interviewed by a guy that's the carnivore guru in the United States, Sean Baker.
Yep.
And I listened to one of his podcasts, and I thought, man, I need to do that. I think I was 58 at the time, and my knees hurt and my back hurt. And I just thought, well, that's just par for the course. But when I went off bread and pasta and all those concentrated carbohydrates, and I went right onto just a big fat steak about 2:00 in the afternoon, no more back pain, no more knee pain, ringing in my ears pretty well subsided. I mean, it was very distant. But now I'm not 100% carno because I like the other food. I really do.
I
I
know
like the
that's
other
the hard
food.
part, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm balancing it. You know, I'll stay away from breads and things like that when I can. But I do like them, and I would like to be
Right.
able to eat them. But like I ate some chips last night because Jill made some brand new salsa, which
Ooh.
burnt my mouth out, right? But anyway, I ate a bunch of these chips, and I woke up with a headache this morning. It felt like I'd had about 4 beers last night. And when I got in the pool, I went
Yeah.
underwater, stayed in there, let it get on the back of my neck really good. When I got out, by the time I was in the house, my headache was gone, and
Yeah.
it didn't come back all day.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
I think that we're living our lives so counter to what we were supposed to. Like
I
we
think
live with
so.
just everything's so nothing. We were supposed to live in tune with what's, and I don't want to sound woo woo because I know this will sound woo woo, but we're supposed to live in tune with what's going on with the weather and the earth. And when we're eating watermelon in January, or when we're heating our house to 80 and it's -2 outside, I just don't
Yeah.
think it's how our bodies. I think that's why a lot of why our bodies aren't happy and everybody's sick. And then on top of it, we have horrible food. I mean, the food's just trash that you get from the industrial system.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
and when you return
I
even parts,
agree with you.
yeah, and it can take a long time. I mean, it's taken me a long time. I mean, I was 29 and I'm 47, 48. And
Mm.
but you can thrive. I don't think anybody should believe, oh, well, I'm going to be, so I should have this ache and pain. No,
Mm.
I'm not going to believe that. I'm
Yeah,
living
and
proof.
along
I mean,
the lines,
I do cartwheels and handstands still. So,
well, I do a lot of the things I used to do when I was 20 years old, but that's like shooting guns and fishing and stuff like that. So,
I'm not doing backflips, none of those, but I can do cartwheels
no,
still.
yeah.
And it doesn't hurt. I mean, I didn't used to be able to even climb stairs. Not even
Hmm.
one set of stairs without stopping. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food, and do no harm. That's the Hippocratic Oath.
Yep. So
And
I
so
think,
when things go out of balance and we get sick or diseased, why wouldn't the components that we need not exist in the environment that was provided for us? I just think that, well, oh yeah, like human beings couldn't exist if they didn't have pharmaceuticals. That sounds like pharmakia to me, which is
right.
noted in the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I'm thankful for antibiotics. I probably wouldn't be here, but yeah.
yeah.
It's just, but I think that we have to change. We can't be holed up in a building all the time under fake light and thrive. We just can't.
My dear, I've held you over 20 minutes.
I know. I'm surprised.
Say good night.
Yes, it's time for bed.
And good night to our viewing audience. And remember, anyone farm. And I will see you next time. Good night.
Night.
Night, Rachel.